to the place where singles shine, celebrating life, divine by design. In faith and love, we intertwine. Route 77, where your journey's prime.
Welcome to the Route 77 podcast. Today we're diving into a controversial topic inspired by a recent news. An NFL player sparked a heated debate by suggesting that adults without children should be banned from Disneyland. We'll explore this claim, discuss the broader implications for singles and childless individuals, and look at how societal norms and policies in Canada can sometimes unfairly disadvantage these groups. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Route 77 podcast. I am your host, Natasha, and I am here with Monique. And no, David, I was super sick yesterday when we were supposed to record. So I asked if we could move it to today, and he thought it would work, but it didn't work for him. So I'm really sorry that David's not here. My fault. I was sick. Couldn't record it. So
Some people
do better next time, hopefully.
Yeah. Next time, what not to do in the extreme heat in 12 hours of Taekwondo.
It's been a day. It was just so hot. I'm in my 40s, trying to pretend I'm in my 20s. And in order to do that, I wear compression pants
For your knees.
for my knees. So it's like wearing yoga pants, but it's like that. Underneath my Taekwondo pants with a whole Taekwondo top on with a sports bra and stuff. So that's like a lot of layers that I wore.
In 30-degree Celsius.
And there was not a lot of air conditioning on because we were just anyway. But I started at 11 a.m. or I think I had it on right around 11 a.m. because I had demo practice and then all that other stuff. And I didn't get to take it off until around 8:30 p.m. 8:30, 9 o'clock. So, and I was just in sweltering heat for all that time, plus doing a test myself, so nervous heat as well. So I think just everything overwhelmed me and I got overheated and dehydrated, even though I was trying to drink water and stuff. Yeah, so I was super sick the next day, that night and the next day. So I'm good now. But unfortunately for David, it didn't work out for him. So I do feel bad that it didn't work out. But we'll do our best to make it work next time.
Sorry, David.
Sorry, David. You're an integral part of this podcast and we do miss it when you're not here. Just so people know, as of this moment, which is July the 15th,
Yes.
we have 699 plays on our podcast. So the next person to listen will hit our 700. So you get a big round of applause for the 700. So if you're listening to this, you might be 700. But yeah, it's just pretty exciting for us that even though we're not a big podcast, we don't have a mass amount of followers. We've in a year and February, March, April, May, June, July, almost a year and a half, we've got 700 plays for our 77 episodes. Last week was 77. This is 78.
So if we hit the year and a half mark with 777 plays, that would be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
People start listening.
Yeah. So,
We only got
right.
March, April, May, June, July.
August 14 would be our year, 6 months. So we'll see what people can do.
That's a lot of plays in a month.
Yeah. Maybe a bunch of people will find it. So aside from that, today's topic, as per usual, I do actually appreciate Google News having the For You section because it picks and chooses what it wants to show you based on your viewing habits, right? So it does show me things from singleness or marriage, things like this. So recently, this is how the topic got started in my head. And I know that David had some pushback about this, which is why one reason I'm sad that he's not here. But let me see. I got to find it now. I went too far. So it was an article. I can't remember who had it. But anyway, and it was just an NFL player who he basically made this comment because that's what they do, is that
Can we say who? Because it is online.
it is, yeah, was it Greg Gaines?
He was, Tampa Bay Buccaneers player in Super Bowl.
Greg Gaines voiced his opinions about Disney adults at theme park. So basically his is hot take, Disneyland should not let people in who are not accompanying a child. the defensive tackle wrote, "The parks are too crowded with 30-plus-year-olds for kids to have fun." He also claimed that adults with kids spend the most money at Disney World Resort and Disneyland Resort, and felt that it was unfair that a family of 4 pays more to visit theme parks than a childless couple. Although I will point out that's math. 4 people are more than 2 people
Or one.
or 1 person. But if a 1 parent and 1 child went, that would equal probably even less, because I'm sure that children pay a little less than adults. But anyway, would be like the same as 2 adult people going. Now, do I ever want to go to Disneyland? I have no desire to, although I've heard some cool things about Star Wars related things.
Yeah, apparently the Star Wars theme park is really cool.
But I also think it's a lot of big bucks that I don't have. And I would rather go see the Ark Encounter down in Kentucky than spend all my money at Disneyland.
Yes,
But
I concur.
And I'm not saying I want to be the one that like allowed, I want to have the choice to go and not be kept out because I'm single or have no children. But I just want to push back on the fact that this is something that he is saying and some people are getting behind.
Yes,
So
because there are people who actually agree with
agree with him. Okay, and we can say Disney's for kids, but if you watch a lot of Disney movies, they do make it entire families. I'll say friendly in quotes, but like they want adults to watch, so they do make adult humor in there, not even dirty humor, just stuff that adults would get that kids wouldn't get, so that they can enjoy it. And also, they've cultivated kids from the last how many years to love their things. So why wouldn't they want to, as 30-somethings or 40-somethings, to want to go and visit?
because they grew up with it.
They grew up with it, and maybe as a 20-something, they didn't have money. And as a 30 or 40-something, they're like, hey, you know what? I don't need kids. I can go have the Disney experience without kids and enjoy myself.
Or you're one of those who never got to go when you were a kid.
Yeah. And you just really want to. And then you finally
Because it
realize,
talks about it. My daughter has gone to Disneyland.
and you
I
have
have
not.
never gone.
And that's the thing. People go, oh, I really want to give my kids the Disneyland experience. And I don't get it, but I'm not that enamored by Disney. Like, I was not a Disney princess person, so I wouldn't be like, let's go Disney princesses. Like, Mulan is my favorite one, and not just because she had a bow staff and sword. I really connect with her on more of an emotional level. But anyway, that's a whole other podcast. But it wasn't like, ooh, I need to go to Disneyland to see Mulan. That wasn't a thing for me. It wasn't a thing. And I'm not a big rides person, as Monique will attest to. And it's not about being able to go to Disney as a 40-plus person. It's
But
not about
just,
that.
Yeah. But this the comment, even though they say it's about Disney, it's really encompassing any kind of family-oriented park where they think that single people should not attend.
Or people or childless couples.
Childless couples. Yep. This is a park for kids. You can't go.
Yeah.
What? Why? You know, I may be nearly 60, but I still am a kid at heart for a lot of things. I love watching cartoons even still. So there.
And I think, okay, I'm not 100% sure about this. It was at one point that you could not go to Legoland unless you had a child with you. I remember reading about an article because there was this guy who was in his like 50s or something that had collected Legos his whole life and had this whole Lego thing and always wanted to go to Legoland, but he wasn't allowed to go without a kid. And I got it, but didn't get it at the same time.
I don't get that at all.
I get they're trying to encourage the kid part and the family part. But if you have a person who does not love Legos, is not going to be like, hey, let's go to Legoland just for the sake of it. They would have, if they had no kids, they would have a purpose to go to Legoland. They would have a purpose to go to Disney. There's that one guy that we watch sometimes on Facebook, Mr. Thomas, like the teacher, the British guy living in America. He loves his Disney stuff. So he's always dressing up as Disney characters and finding Disney toys.
God.
And quite funny. He loves Disney. And he probably makes money off of loving Disney because he peddles their stuff so much. But he's there. So he would be a person, him and his wife, because his wife likes to dress up and have fun with him too. There's a video about people saying, you don't think I'm married, but then she comes in wearing all the stuff too. She's as crazy as him, which is awesome. Anyhow. And so he would have a purpose to go to Disneyland or Disney World because
You would probably even dress up as one of the princesses.
But it's just, if you're a 30-something, 40-something couple or single person with a friend, like there would be a purpose because you want to experience it. You want to enjoy yourself. And from what I understand too, is like some of people's responses are there's actually a lot of adult stuff to do at Disney and Disney World or whatever. There's catering too. So this is a podcast about, oh, we have to like, woe is us. Like we can't go to Disneyland, or we potentially could get banned from Disneyland because we have no children. We'd have to borrow a child to go.
Do you know of any children? I know a lot of children. Do you know a lot of children? We know a lot of.
I'm sure we could grab one from the Dojang and
Ida.
Yeah, there you go. Those are my nieces and nephews or something.
Yeah,
we can grab them. But I think the point sometimes of going as an adult is that you don't have to cater to the kids while you're there.
Because as a childless person, children are a lot of work. They are a lot of work. And if you get even if you're borrowing somebody's kids, you can't deal with certain issues like you can if they were your own kid. Temper tantrums, they want everything, and you are the giver of everything. No, I am not the giver of everything. No, you cannot have that. Get up off the floor. Stop your screaming. You want, okay, that's it. I'm walking away. I'm not coming back.
Experience with kids. And it's fine. If you want to give your kids that and you can take some adult time or whatever, then go for it.
I took, when I was a teenager and E.T. was out, my best friend Michelle and I took my cousin Bobby to go see it. He was 5. And everybody kept telling me, oh, don't take him to that. He's not going to understand it. That little guy sat quietly through the entire movie. And we're just like, wow, he's really good. Did he fall asleep? When we looked at him and he had great big tears rolling down his face, he says, I want a pet just like that. He understood completely. Come on, people. And it's great. Taking kids to these things can be a great experience because you see through their eyes that you wouldn't normally.
I brought a couple of kids that I was tutoring to go see the newer version of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I had been reading them the book or having them read the book because it was reading and anyway. But because I had grown up with the story and the BBC version and listening to the audio, like I love them, like there's no sense of surprise or newness to it. But like when this one kid was like when Aslan, spoiler alert, gets killed, he's like, he didn't die, dude. And then when he came back, like to life, he's like, what?
So excited.
So the experience is definitely different with kids.
It definitely is. But that should not mean that because you don't have kids, that you should be excluded from certain things.
And some people might say, oh, you just don't know if people can't have kids and you're like, yes, that's true. But people are allowed to choose not to have kids and not be penalized for it. And whether you agree or disagree with couples not having kids, that's their decision.
Yeah.
I think we like to bash, in a sense, the pro-choice, in a sense of saying the woman's body is the woman's body, blah, blah. I think it goes two ways because I think there's a lot of, when people are pro-choice, they tend to look down on women who choose to have a lot of children. But if people are pro-life, they choose to look down on people who choose not to have children. I don't know. And my mind is they aren't prepared or they're not willing, like, should you force them to be a parent?
Is this the abortion debate? Are we getting?
No, I'm just talking about people who choose not to have kids. Like
they don't get pregnant. They choose not to have kids.
Chosen not to. It's not like they're infertile or they're going through difficulties because we often try to it's not like we try to will be willing to accept that, but not willing to accept choice to not have kids. But anyway, that's again another topic for another podcast.
So it has nothing to do with abortion.
No, we're not talking about that topic at the moment. We're just saying that people on the pro-choice side tend to look down on people who choose to have a lot of children, and people who are on the pro-life side tend to look down on couples who choose not to have kids. There's a tendency to demonize different ways of life. And so I'm just feeling like this area is what this gentleman was saying as this football player was degrading people who, one, can't have kids, 2, have chosen not to have kids, or 3, are single and celibate, right? And saying that people who have children or are willing to bring children have more work. They should be allowed the experience.
They should have more privileges. They should have better discounts. They should have,
Yeah.
but I don't know if you've noticed, and I've gone to some of these science forums or the suspension bridge.
Mhm.
For an adult to get on to any of these attractions is 3 times the price of a child.
Yeah.
So let's talk about fairness here.
Right.
Just because I am older child, I get it that children take up less space. Is that the story? And I get that because families, they want to bring their kid, it's still hundreds of dollars to go onto these, which is stupidly
It's in my
ridiculous.
mind, I can't see the worth. But again,
No,
some people want to do that and they see the worth in it, and that is their choice. So I think we can take this and bring it even to, I see it happening in some workplaces where if you're single or childless, then there's this tendency to think that person should be more available or can work later because they don't have a family to go home to. Or they can work during the summer because they don't have kids that are off of school and need vacations. Or they can work on a holiday because you don't have family to go to. Now, I choose to offer that because my family, Monique is my family, but my ginormous part of my family is in Ontario. So when family things come along, then I'll say, hey, if you want the day off, I'll work because I don't have family here. Monique and I can do something that it's not going to take a long time to do for 2 people. I choose to do that, but it shouldn't be expected.
no.
And yet that can be a tendency to be like, hey, why don't you change your holiday because my kids are out of school? And you're like, but I plan to go at this time to this place. Like and I've already asked for the time off. And
I've got the tickets to go.
yeah, it's just like they've been approved the time off and to use the guilt card of, but I have kids. And we were like, we really wanted to go and they're off at school, or it's a holiday and I don't care that you were planning to go and see your family because you don't have kids, so it's not the same. Or they don't say that, but that's like the implication by asking for it. Now, do all jobs do this? No, but there is a surprising tendency to think that single people or childless people have less rights to their time and their money and their whatever. Oh, you shouldn't need a raise because you don't have kids or something like that. Like you just don't have the expenses. And when you actually look at things like the tax laws, it actually benefits people who are married or in common law relationships
And have children.
and have children.
Your dependencies cut your taxes way down.
And like your accountants that can work well within the law of a couple can move some things around to make like your tax bills much less.
And the more kids you have, the more money you get from the government in child tax credit.
Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, we don't have I don't have the expenses of children, but I also have a single income.
Right.
Even though we're doing our best, it's like quasi dual income, which is that we can afford the house. But many people don't have the option. But also it's still difficult because even something like, say, Monique and I in a completely other world, we're in a relationship when we are not. See, then you would have one, a dual income to work with the income taxes. 2, you would be able to go off each other's benefits.
Yeah.
So I use up my benefits. I can go on hers. She could use up if we're, again, completely different world. But if you look at it from that,
Because that is a lot. If you were in a same-sex relationship, you have that benefit now that common law married people have.
yeah,
We're not in that kind of relationship. We don't have
we're
those
just
benefits.
2 single people.
Yeah.
And so we have I don't think Amber's a dependent for you. No, she has her own.
She has her own.
So,
And she's
neither of us-
33, so I couldn't claim.
yeah,
Although if she was living with me because she's special needs, I would have that.
that's why I wasn't sure.
Yes.
But so Monique and I are like single income.
We have to pay the full tax.
We have to pay full taxes.
We get no benefit.
No, and we can't move things around within, okay, we'll put this under this name so that, and it's completely legal that accountants are doing this. They're well trained to do this,
Yes.
but it's just not available. So you think, oh, they've got lots of money. They don't have kids or blah, blah, blah. But you're like, we have taxed more.
Yeah.
And we have less benefit to things like benefits. It's like that.
So because once we pay into for the house, like for the bills and the mortgage and the taxes, then what we have left over is our own for our own expenses that and there's very little left over.
Yeah. And that's what's probably in one of the better situations that people who are single can find themselves in. That the only reason we can't afford to have a house as a single person,
You can't.
we would never, ever be able to.
Not unless you're in one of those fabulous jobs that pays you $100,000 a year.
Yeah. And we're not in those.
We're not in those. Even with our combined income.
We're not in those. Yeah. And it's not a complaint. It's not a whining session. But I just want people to be more aware. Like, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And so when people start saying that you shouldn't go to Disneyland because you don't have kids, and you're sitting there, wait, what? Like, why
do we keep getting penalized because
we're single or have no children for whatever reason, choice or not a choice? It's just,
I have one of my coworkers. She is the exact same age as me. Her birthday is 1 month after mine. And she's married she's got kids, all grown kids. All of her kids are married. She's grandma and all that wonderful kind of stuff that comes with being married with kids. And she works part-time. She doesn't have to work full-time. She can cut back her hours to barely anything because her husband makes a living and she lives off of him. And I'm just like,
not in a negative way, just in an equal way.
Not
like she's living off on like a mooch. It's just
the way it goes. Like he makes enough to support both of them, and she works part-time just so that they have that little bit of extra, right? And they travel a lot. They go. She's from the state, and they've got weddings coming up and birthdays and kids and all that kind of stuff. It's great. She doesn't want to not work. She's not ready to completely retire, but she's looking forward to it. And the same with the other girl, Sandra, that I work with. She was able to retire early because of her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And they moved up into the mountains and they got a great big piece of property.
Sometimes if one spouse has this like good, especially if it's a good job with a good pension, like you can end up sitting pretty nice after that.
Yeah.
And that's completely okay.
And I'm looking at probably still working in my 70s, just trying to make ends meet because CPP for a single person is not going to pay.
So it's just it's not.
Yes, I'm whining and complaining.
Yes, we're whining and complaining, but at the same time,
it's the reality.
It's the reality of what it is. We're not saying that married people shouldn't have those benefits in a sense. Nope. It makes sense to combine the income and to move things the way they should so that you can pay less taxes. Hey, like our accounts does the best he can for us with what we have.
Yep. And if both parents are working, getting that child tax credit helps with paying for daycare and stuff like that, because that's a reality too.
Yeah,
because a lot of times, especially nowadays, because of our economy, thank you to the government, most times both parents have to work unless one of them makes, like my brother was able to take care of his daughter because his wife was a school teacher. She made a really good income. So he drove bus while his kids were growing up. So he would drive his kids to school and he had the bus route and they did really well that way. So if you've got that kind of situation, that helps so much.
Yeah. Because imagine as a single parent, like you can't do that. You're just trying to make ends meet. You're just single income and you're fortunate if you can get like child support from your significant spouse. But yeah, so if you get child support from your significant other or whatever, if the person has the spouse, then that's great. But it's difficult when you're not in a dual income family. But we do live in a dual income economy.
We do.
And it is so difficult. I'm applauding any single people or people with no kids who are able to go to Disneyland.
Those who got into that perfect career that gives them the kind of bank
where they're working 80 hours a week and finally take that week off to go to Disneyland, more power to you. But I think, and the thing is too, like and again, we've talked about this a lot, but we see it within the church too. And it's not a financial benefit really, but it's just there's that expectation that these are the things you should do, get married, have kids. And when you don't, most churches have a hard time placing you.
Yeah.
Because there's no box other than a singles ministry that's usually designed on getting you married. There's no real place for you. Like you can like volunteer and do these things. But again, like we talk about how being single, you can be a little more flexible, and it's true, you can be, but it shouldn't be an expectation that you can just do anything because you're single or you don't have kids. But it's just hard because you're trying to live your life for God in the way that He has called you. And in this moment in your life, if you're finding yourself single, like you're already struggling with, there's a lot of stuff usually going on in your head if you haven't been able to come to terms with your singleness. Your church is usually telling you, maybe implicitly instead of explicitly, but at least implicitly, that marriage and kids are the way you should go. That's the way, that's the highest blessing, the calling, whatever. And when you don't find these things, you're already dealing with a lot of mental health issues.
Where do I fit in the place?
And yeah, and so like we want there to be like, that's why our ministry, we feel like so called to it, because we want it to be like there is a place. It's not just a placeholder. Like we'll stick you here till the marriage and kids happen, and then you can have the real life or whatever.
And if you get too old for kids, there's still marriage. I mean, I've heard of people who got married in the 90s for the first.
I still get, there's people that are not even 50 and they're just about 50 and they have kids. And I'm just like, that's okay. Good for them. I'm good. I'm pretty good with, I don't need, it's okay. But they tell you that it drives me crazy because I know they're trying to be super helpful and loving, but it's really telling you that where you are right now is not acceptable or good enough. And we are constantly trying to and just people like this, like telling like this football player, it's what he's saying you aren't worth it. Like you are worth less because you don't have kids. Still going on about that. So I think I mentioned it before, but one time I got an email letter from a young man in my old church. He was younger than me. He was like my brother's ages, tiny church. So it wasn't like, anyway. His whole letter was basically like, and again, it was out of he had good intention.
His heart was in the right place.
But please don't ever do this. Basically telling me that if I acted a little bit more like a woman, cooked more, and cleaned more, or whatever, dressed up, then I would have a better chance of finding a husband. And I was already in a super bad place because I wasn't married and kids already, and I'm in my late 20s at this point. And it was just, but again, like the idea that who you are now and the life you have now is not acceptable. Or yeah, it's not acceptable because it's not even saying it's okay, but it's not as good. It's just saying, let's get you out of this. And if you have people just saying, if you don't have kids, it's not the preferable way to be. Or if you're not married, he's not saying this about Disneyland. It's not about single people. It's about childless people. But still, there's people out there who act like being married and having kids is the only real way to live.
It's the end all be all.
And that if you don't do that, then you must be seeking that, because there's a problem if you're not seeking that. Like I get people telling me, if you're still young, you can find somebody. Why aren't you out there finding somebody? And I just, because I know it's good intentions, but I just mumble away. And I
had 23 years to find somebody, and I'm not an ugly person.
Very beautiful.
And back then I was a little cuter than I am now because, I was 20 years younger than I am now. I wore makeup. I wore dresses. I know how to cook. I'm a pretty good cook.
She's a good cook.
I didn't see anybody knocking down my doors.
I know. And
I went to all the places that you're supposed to find the one, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how many single groups and ministries that hunted.
The worst part is you go to these things and then the people
They're all
that you
70
see,
years old.
and you're like, do I look like that to everybody else?
No, right? And then they're going, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, I don't know. I tried so many Christian dating apps, mostly Christian dating apps, because I was out in the middle of nowhere in a tiny church and I wasn't.
But don't you know you're just being too picky?
I was, apparently. I don't even have to be physically attracted to the person. I should just marry the first guy that fits the bill and they'll come.
He's a guy. That worked. Drive him to the old one.
But it had to be the right type of guy.
What's that mean?
That's a whole other podcast. let's just say, apparently I could have chosen better and it didn't matter whether or not I was physically attracted to that person or not, but that would come in time. Even though the people telling me this were perfectly attracted to the people they got married to.
Yeah.
But again, it's that idea that that marriage had to happen. It's like you had to make it happen no matter what, but to the right person. But their right person, it's like it on paper was the right person. So as long as you fit the bill, we can just make it work. Because
Oh, I've set you up on a blind date. Oh, what does he look like? Got a great personality.
although they do work because our friends got married that way. George and Carrie, that's how they met.
Oh, yes. Yeah, but Carrie's very cute.
And so is George.
There you go.
So they're a very cute couple. But that can work. But are you telling the person? I think their friends just thought they should meet, and then it went from there. It wasn't like you desperately need to get married or remarried.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Because Carrie, I'm pretty sure that Carrie had finally gotten to the point of believing that she was going to be single for life and didn't care.
mhm.
I mean, she'd gone on mission trips. She did her own thing. She worked. She was a happy enough person.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And this just fell out of the sky, literally.
And then some people tell you that, oh, it wasn't until I stopped looking that they came. So you just have to stop looking. But then you're only stopping looking so that you can find somebody.
But you're not really stopping.
But you're not really stopping looking. That's what gets me crazy. When some of these people when they stop trying to get pregnant, then they find out they got pregnant. But you can't stop trying to get pregnant to think that you will get pregnant, because then you're just thinking about, I'm trying to not try, or I'm trying to not try to get married. Like, you're 2 foot on it. Like, it has to naturally happen.
Yeah.
Then these things, these things can happen. So by consciously not trying to do something does not work. And it also doesn't help you to be content in where you are. Because you're it's like that prosperity thing. Like, if I try hard enough to look content, then God will give it to me, and then I can really be content.
Yeah.
I'm
They're
like
going to all these theme parks. And
that would be fun to go to Disneyland, because of course
yeah, we'll have,
go to Legoland.
yeah, we'll get all the benefits and all the perks and all the
We'll be able to have
sleepless nights.
dual incomes, the income tax benefit.
Yeah.
But it's just
Not fair, man.
yeah. Oh, wine complain. That's just our lot in life.
Oh, woe is the single person who never gets. I'm happy enough. Thank you very much.
But we're happy where we are with what we're doing. We're not saying this to complain and try to get something out of it.
I don't know what we would get at.
I don't know. Disneyland tickets, a place that we don't even want to go. I don't know.
Maybe to the
Art
Michigan-
Museum, the Creation Museum. We'll take tickets to there.
We'll take tickets.
They take people without kids too. We'd still take. We would be happily accept.
Yeah. If you're planning on a road trip, we'll go with you.
Yeah, Creation Museum. Okay, yeah, we're there.
We're there.
But yeah,
We even have a cat sitter.
yeah, exactly. And a dog sitter, I know. I just want people more to think about the fact that people who are childless, for whatever reason, choice, or circumstance, or people who are single are equal. Now, again, some things are better in one way and some things are better in another way. They're equal, but not the same. Yes. And we understand that. We're not
unconstant.
Yes. And we understand that some of the cons for being single is the tax stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the cons, apparently, for being childless is for people to say we shouldn't go to Disneyland. But some of them don't have to be there. Like this gentleman saying this. And it's not just him, because I've seen different people say things about different things about people not having kids shouldn't be doing stuff.
Right.
Or, yeah. And it's sad, because it's like,
Why are you picking on us?
why does relationship status or
Child status.
child status, parental status change the person,
Right.
in people's eyes? Like in the church, it should not change it shouldn't be looking at a couple who's childless or a person who's single and, oh, poor.
Well, if it's Ben Shapiro, you know what he said. We're not adults until we've had kids.
Apparently, yeah, that was that whole.
That was a whole other podcast.
Yeah,
You haven't heard that one. So
in the
listen.
back there.
That's a few.
That's a few episodes back, but yeah, it's just that was yeah. Do you want to hear that one? it would tick me off there. It's like people.
Yeah.
If only we didn't have to deal with people. But yeah, just in the church, don't look on the single people or the childless couples as look on them with pity or with, I don't know, like the annoyance that why should they get to go on a Christmas holiday when I can't because I have kids and they don't. So don't look down on them. Don't look hideously on them. Like they have an equal right to choose how they spend their time and their money. And it's not, if you stop treating them by saying things like, it's okay, there's still time for you to have kids. It's okay, there's still time for you to get married. Stop.
And stop putting pressure on them for that.
Yeah. That's why I say, go up to people and be like, hey, what's going on in your life? Not, hey, have you found someone yet?
Now that you guys are married, when are you having kids?
I know, it's like you barely meet someone. They're like, hey, when you getting married? Oh, hey, when you having kids? You're like, hey, we just got married yesterday. Can we have a 5 minute? I don't know. It's just if you don't have kids within like a year or two, then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I don't know. They're not being very responsible and having kids like you're supposed to. I don't know. It says a quiver full in the Bible. And then you go, oh, people don't know. Maybe they're having a hard time. Or maybe they chose not to. Another podcast for another day. I do want to have a podcast about kids and things like having them and not having them and choices around that because there's a lot of ethical decisions to make on there. We don't want to discriminate discriminate against people based on their relationship status or their parental status. There's some, I don't know, I guess it can be taken too far because like when you have like baby contest, are you going to be like, hey, I'm a 63-year-old person, I should be able to go because they're discriminating against me because it's a baby in this contest. I'm like, that's just silly.
Yes. I hate to tell you this, but you don't look like a baby anymore. No matter how big the diaper is.
Yes, they're but yeah, we have a lot of podcasts in this podcast. We've mentioned a lot of possible podcasts, but I'm just saying a more reasonable thing, like a situation like Disneyland or Legoland, which I think should be more like a public access as opposed to parental
or people with kids only.
Yeah. Like this is something that's supposed to be for entertainment purposes. Plus, you've also created like years of interest with all the stuff. So like they don't become adults and then all of a sudden lose interest in something they may have enjoyed their whole childhood.
Yeah.
And there is a sensible cut. And then like
Not sensible?
not sensible. Like, why are we picking on people right now just because they like to go to Disneyland?
That's ridiculous.
And I guess again, if it was like just a person who said it to me, I might still do the podcast. But this is a person actually like that as a celebrity football player. He has a platform and people are agreeing with this platform. Does it mean that Disney will do this?
Probably an influencer.
Yeah, exactly. And does it mean Disney's going to ban childless people? No, they want money.
Yes.
It's not about that. It's about the sentiment.
Attitude.
It's about the attitude that somehow people without children don't deserve
to go to places.
Do these things simply because they don't have children, have chosen to or cannot for whatever reason.
Exactly.
And same with the church. We shouldn't be looking down on people or like thinking their lives are somehow incomplete or less fulfilled. They can't possibly be content because they're not married or they don't have kids. Right. Like the more that you say those things, the more they like question whether they should be feeling it. It's like when a kid falls, but if you ask them if they don't cry, but then you ask them if they're okay, and then they're like, is they're crying because they thought they were okay, but then maybe they weren't. So I thought I was doing pretty good, but then apparently I should be wishing I was married or wishing I had kids.
Yeah.
And one, you don't know what they're going through, but two, you got to be more.
Like when Aida fell.
Yeah.
You and her was like up and wrestling.
She kept running. We're like, hey, just don't say anything. She seems okay.
Yeah. And she just kept running and she was okay.
Yeah. And it was just
Even though she did a foot test.
I know. And he like bounced off the mat with her face, and I was sure she would. And
I would have cried.
I would have cried. I was ready. I was like, this is a crying moment, and I'm okay with that. And she kept running, and their mom and I looked at each other, and we're like, okay, she's okay. We'll just leave it. It's fine. But
And she kept running.
yeah,
None the wiser.
exactly. So it's just, instead of like saying these things, let's don't go around saying, like, you should be so glad you're single and childless. Yeah, not helpful. Sounds like horrible.
It sounds like reverse psychology.
Yeah, I should be glad you're a failure. I don't know how it comes across to me. It's not just like, how much better right now, right? Like, instead, like I said, just see what's going on in their lives and be happy for them and supportive of it. It's just stop, please.
Can we just be people,
Yes,
whether we're married, single, children, or not?
yes.
Can we just be
We're
people?
all equal.
We're all
Not the same, not identical, but equal.
Yeah.
That's why we call Route 77. We're on two paths, married or single. Equal, yet not the same.
all made in the image of our glorious God.
To you, football player, I can't remember your name.
Greg
Greg
Gaines.
Game? Was that his name?
I think so. And I'm not a football over.
I don't mind watching with my dad. I don't watch it. Greg Gaines, Mr. Greg Gaines, I respectfully disagree with your comment. I hope one day that you maybe think about what you said and realize that it wasn't maybe the wisest thing. Here we are.
You know what sparked that whole debate?
What did?
Was the debate among Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland Resort fans about giving up parade viewing spots for children. So the video that sparked the discussion went so viral that an NFL star weighed in, taking a harsh stance on childless adults at theme parks.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed all of that.
So if we're not here next week, we might be at Disney celebrating the fact that we can go there without children, or we're all sick and couldn't do the podcast. It would be one of those two things. Or we're just here next week and we didn't go anywhere, which is probably the highest probability.
It's funny because they're saying thousands of commenters on this post, and some felt the person who started the post that she was in the wrong for showing up at the last minute and expecting a good viewing spot on Main Street. Others blame the adults for taking away from a child's Disney experience.
So yeah, so you'll Google it. It's probably all over, but gotta love that Google News. They're showing me these articles that give me the podcast ideas on that topic. If there's anything that you want us to talk about, I don't have to get all my ideas from Google Ads or Google News.
No, we can get them from you.
We can get them from you. So if there's something that you want us to talk about or re-talk about,
or clarify,
you're just really wondering about, or
can you go deeper on this topic? Hey,
Yes.
We'll do whatever you want.
within reason.
Within reason. Cleanliness is a thing.
Yes.
Keep
It is a
clean.
Christian podcast.
We keep it clean.
Yes. Sort of.
Sort of.
We have like a set talk.
Yes, but we still keep it
We
clean.
keep it clean.
We don't get too descriptive
No.
because children
Yes.
might listen.
It might be in the vicinity.
And we do know that there are some young.
Children, our parents with children are welcome in our podcast.
Yes.
To listen.
Yes. And married people.
And people who aren't married and who have no children. All are welcome
All are welcome.
to listen.
Yeah. Even though we call this redeeming singleness, we are hoping that people who are married, people who are single with kids, people who are married with kids, single people, divorced, widowed, or that just scared the heck out of me. I don't know what that was. You're all welcome to listen. So tell your friends.
Married friends, with kids, without kids, non-married friends,
We want to hit our 777 by our,
and 1 month less a day.
yeah, 1 month less a day. That's the thing.
Anyhow,
Anywho,
let us know.
yeah.
And we will be here next time because we're obviously not going to Disneyland.
No, we're not. And
Okay.
we're not going to the credit ship.
No, yes,
I don't know about you, but I can't afford it.
I can't afford it. We're single people on a single income, so wah. That we'll see you here next time.
Bye for now.
That wraps up our discussion for today. We've touched on some significant issues around discrimination towards singles and childless individuals, both in the context of theme parks and broader societal norms. Remember, whether single, married, with kids, or without, everyone deserves to be treated with respect and equality. If you enjoyed this episode or have any thoughts to share, please leave a review or connect with us on social media. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the Route 77 podcast. And remember to live your single life to its fullest.